Did Suella Braverman go too far with her comments condemning the progress flag? It's time now for our head-to-head. So, Suella Braverman has made a blistering speech at the National Conservatism event in Washington, stating that the progress flag, an updated version of the pride flag, flew over government buildings as if they were, quote, occupied territory. We can have a little listen.
Far, far too many Tory politicians agreed, and still agree, that the progress flag must be flown. To be kind, to be inclusive. It shows how liberal and progressive we are. And that's what many Conservatives want us to be. Well, the progress flag says to me, it says to me one monstrous thing, that I was a member of a government that presided over the mutilation of our children in our hospitals and from our schools.
Well, she added that left her feeling physically repulsed. Now, radical gender ideology has frequently been reported from within Whitehall. So just last year, civil servants were encouraged to use their own pronouns in email signatures and to use neutral language when other people's were not known. More recently, The Telegraph discovered that staff in the Department for Work and Pensions shared a 30 Days of Pride calendar with daily videos and articles on topics including transgender children. But did Braverman go too far with her comments? Let me know your thoughts. Go to gbnews.com/your say or tweet me at gbnews and make sure you go and vote in our poll. But I'm joined now by LGBT rights campaigner Peter Tatchell and social commentator and writer James Esses. James, I will start with you because you have some experience of what it's like in the civil service. Now, Suella Braverman's comments for me there were more of a sign of actually she wasn't in control because she wanted that flag taken down and she couldn't get it. Do you think she's right to say that it was like occupied territory?
Completely. This ideology has taken over all areas of society and all societal institutions. I myself previously worked in the Home Office, and I saw this operating throughout every layer of the organisation. And if you're in a position where the Home Secretary herself cannot row back on some of these regressive policies or this ideological symbolism, then what hope is there for a lowly civil servant just working in a policy role? And we've just seen Pride Month come and go, and I think that was probably the clearest example of the ideological
well, it's not come and gone if you take a stroll down Regent Street at the moment in London, because it's still very much there. We've had D-Day during this month, and the Pride flag was up there and not the Union flag. England are in the semi-finals of the Euros. There's not a St George's Cross in sight, is there? It's all still very much the Pride stuff. Peter, what is the progress flag then? Because this is not just the rainbow flag, is it?
It's the traditional rainbow flag symbolising the LGBT plus community, but it's also got additional chevrons on it to symbolise trans and bisexual people, black and ethnic minorities, and intersex people. So it's trying to be inclusive for everyone. But I want to add a comment about what you said. LGBT people are not an ideology. We are human beings. We're part of British society. We have human rights. To celebrate our community, and indeed any community, is a good thing, a positive thing. It's not about imposing, it's about celebrating the diversity of British society.
It's an ideology, though, isn't it?
It's not an ideology.
Well, let me finish. It is an ideology, though, isn't it, to deny basic biological gender rules. That's a theory, isn't it? That's not biological fact.
Well, that's a separate issue.
Well, it's not. It's got it all on that same flag and it's hoisted above our government department.
Yeah, the LGBT plus community is very diverse. And thankfully, most people in British society today accept LGBT plus people. They don't agree with these culture wars. They believe in respecting other people and human rights. The comments made by Suella Braverman could have been made by neo-Nazis like the National Front or the BNP years ago. Those were so outrageous comments, and she's been condemned by fellow Conservatives.
I'm going to start getting a buzzer, right, for whenever anyone brings up the Nazis when it comes out of anything any Tory says.
No, I said neo-Nazis. I said neo-Nazis. The National Front.
Yeah, Peter, can I say that's an absolutely abhorrent accusation to make? I'd just like to return to some of the points that you've made. I mean, it's ironic that this is called the progress pride flag when actually it is a symbol of regression. this flag has been used to justify the experimental medical transitioning of children. I mean, there's nothing more regressive than suggesting to young boys and young girls that if they don't conform to certain sex stereotypes, that they might be trapped in the wrong body. And I've seen people from certain LGBT plus groups use this flag as a way to justify their perversions, including sexual attraction to children and even animals. They supposedly fall within this rainbow umbrella. To accuse Suella Braverman of being akin to a BNP member or a neo-Nazi, I think is an absolute disgrace. She is concerned about the safeguarding of children, the protection of women's rights, and the protection of freedom of speech.
Well, she accused her government, of which she was a part of, and said nothing, of mutilating children. First of all, it is impossible for any child in this country to have gender reassignment surgery. That is forbidden. Just recently, puberty blockers have been banned. So the idea that children are being mutilated by this government or any previous government is absolutely wrong. It's factually inaccurate.
That's not true, Peter.
It's factually inaccurate.
Peter, the definition of mutilation is severe bodily harm that has a ruinous impact on somebody's life. Puberty blockers, which, yes, now, thankfully, at last have been prohibited, but have been for a long time in this country used on children as young as 9 years old. It's caused brain development issues, bone growth issues. We know that children 16 years old have been receiving cross-sex hormones, some of whom have been left permanently infertile, and children as young as 17 years old in Scotland have been placed on waiting lists for double mastectomies. So children very much have been and continue to be mutilated.
You want to bring this down to the trans issue. Trans is just one section of the wider LGBT plus community. Some people in the community support your view, others don't. Most people believe that trans rights are human rights. There can be a debate about the issues about women's rights and women's spaces, and I respectfully address that. Okay. I respectfully address that. There is a difference. There's two different things. There are women based on biological sex.
I would argue there's a third thing, actually, which is that someone who is or was the Home Secretary, who was in charge of the Home Office, wanted that flag taken down and said she couldn't have it taken down because of a combination of civil servants and people within her own party. Do you not think that's a little bit weird? She's in charge. She's the gaffer.
Yeah, well, that's up to her party and the Home Office officials to determine. That's up to them.
Who's in charge here, though? No, I mean, who's in charge?
But by proposing to take down that flag, that would be seen as an attack and a threat against the LGBT plus community.
So there you go. It's taking that flag down. This is it, isn't it? Once that flag goes up, the second you want to take that down, you're what, some kind of homophobic transphobe, are you?
Well, I would like to ask, Peter, what has happened to institutional neutrality, particularly that of the public sector? I mean, which is, a hugely important principle to give confidence of members of the public in the public sector. I mean, in Pride Month, we've seen doctors wearing pride badges, state schools hoisting the pride flag. We've seen fire and rescue services marching alongside men dressed in fetish gear at the pride marches. We've seen people being cancelled from their jobs because they dared say that men cannot become women.
But hang on, the government celebrates Diwali, the Hindu festival. The government celebrates Black History Month. The government celebrates commemorates the suffragettes and women's struggles. This is not one thing. It's not just about LGBT. It's rightly that the government celebrates all the diverse sections of our society, and I think that's fantastic.
It is, I get that, but we are literally coming straight off the back of a time. We've had D-Day, and we did not have a Union Jack up on Regent Street, and our Prime Minister left that commemoration early so he could go and interview by the bloke.
Well, we should have. I agree, we should have.
By the bloke who did the whole Partygate scandal for ITV. I mean, good grief, we are where we are.
Yeah, I agree, we should have celebrated D-Day.
All right, thank you very, very much, both of you. Lovely stuff. All right, who do you agree with? Did Suella Braverman go too far with her comments? Excuse me. Condemning the progress flag. Rita, on your say, says, Suella is absolutely correct. I wish more of these politicians would grow some and follow her lead. Right. Shannara on X says, yes, Suella went too far. Trans people are constantly being targeted and it's time it stopped. Danny says, she's right. If the Conservatives had listened to her the first time she told the truth over these hate marches, they wouldn't have suffered such a humiliating defeat. Right, let's see what your verdict is. 10% of you think that Suella Braverman went too far on the comments and 90% of you said that she didn't. Right, look, coming up,